I was 22 and I had dropped out of college a couple years earlier, and I had just finished a long and chaotic and very absorbing relationship with this girl. And the day after we broke up, I immediately started writing a novel because I had done nothing but date her and work in a restaurant. So my mind was free and I started writing this novel, and then I lost interest in it and dropped it. But then I started another one and I wrote on that for a little while and then lost interest in it. Just wasn't feeling right. It was feeling forced. And so there I was, and I hadn't written or created anything in a while, and I was feeling a little frustrated. I was out of college, didn't have a degree, was waiting tables, working in this, also living in this bed and breakfast with my brother. We were overseeing it. And I had this image in my head of a raven sitting on a railroad tie, and I heard the words, "Damn that raven on a railroad tie." And I realized it was a poem. And I wrote it. I wrote this poem. It was only 8 lines long and it rhymed because I did like rhymes and I still do. And I had finished it. I had finished something. I was so grateful. And about the same time, I was reading some poems by the poet Wallace Stevens. And he had one poem called "The Man with the Blue Guitar." And in it, he had this one line, these couplets that went, "Tick it, tack it, turn it true, bang it from a savage blue." I loved it. I loved the way it sounded. I loved the playfulness of it. I loved the rhythm. I loved the tick it, tack it, turn it true. I loved how that sounded. And this just kind of opened up, freed something up in my mind. And for the next year, I wrote poem after poem. They came quickly. They were fun to write. They were interesting to me. They were surprising. They felt like songs in a way, in that they all had a rhythm to them and a sound to them and a point of view to them. I loved it. And it was really at that point in my young artistic life, the most authentic thing I had created, the most original thing. All those poems were the most original expression of my creative voice, one after the other, after the other, after the other. They came easily, came quickly. And then one day I got up and I wanted to write a poem, but I didn't have an idea. I didn't have the inspiration for an idea. I wanted to write, but I didn't have a thing to write about. So I said, well, I'll go for a walk and I'll come up with one. So I went for a walk and I sort of said, okay, give me an idea, but one didn't come. I couldn't make it happen. I eventually settled on something that was kind of interesting to me, but I could tell there was a difference. I was taking all the craft I had learned and all the things I had learned while writing these poems about language and the way I like to approach things, and applied it to this one idea, but it felt forced. It didn't have the zip, it didn't surprise me in the way the other ones did. And I kind of gave up on the poetry. It's true. Went on to other stuff though, and I did have some fun with a different project after that. But it was an important moment in my creative life, and one we all have to deal with. Sometimes you get an inspired idea and bang, you're off and running, or you get a series of them. And that is great. That is great. Boom, boom, boom. They come and you don't have to do anything. The idea is there, and all you got to do is translate it. But um, other times, the inspired idea hasn't come to you. And as I discovered that day, my craft and my intelligence is only in service to that inspired idea. I think um, Einstein said something to the effect of reason is inspiration's servant. I think it's really true of writing. Your craft is really in service to the inspiration, and nothing I do as a writer can replace that inspired idea, the thing that comes to me that I apply my craft to. And it wouldn't be until years later that I understood a big part of the job of the artist is to know how to invite the inspiration. I began to because for a while, as I've said in this podcast, I would write one essay a day for years. And I began to learn how to, and sometimes I had an idea and sometimes I didn't, but I learned how to sit down and open my mind, stop thinking and wait and listen and create within me what felt like a inviting environment where an idea would come. I don't know how else to describe it. I in this podcasts, in my classes, in my books, I write about how to get into that zone that allows creative ideas to come to you. But ultimately, you have to learn for yourself what that feels like, what it feels like to allow, to create in your mind the environment that allows the idea to come in. It's critical because sometimes, like I said, you'll be walking along distracted, taking a shower, doing the dishes, and something will come, and that's great. But it's also good to remember that there's a thing we can do deliberately that allows the idea to come. This is such an important part of being an artist. We really can't do anything without those ideas, without the inspired idea. That's why we have this thing called the muse, this entity that seems to deliver these ideas to it. You've got to believe the muse is always there and she's always ready with an idea, but you have to do your part, which is to put yourself into the frame of mind that allows it. And once you do, the ideas will come. They have to, they always do. But your job is to learn how to get into that frame of mind, to trust that that's enough. And once you do, the ideas come, and now you're writing, and now you're doing your thing. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. Okay. Remember, if you don't want to miss a dose of this, hit subscribe so you don't have to. And if you like it, say so. Say so. I'd love to hear from you. So until next week, this is Bill Kenower. Stay fearless.